At 9:17 a.m., the physics of our world ceased to function. Every ocean on Earth vanished. There was no steam from evaporation and no ice from a sudden freeze. The water was simply gone. For the 100,000 vessels currently at sea, the results were instantaneous. Fully loaded container ships like this one suddenly lost their buoyancy and plummeted for miles, crashing into the newly exposed seabeds. On land, the first sign was a dry tap. Most people assumed it was a local plumbing failure or a temporary water main break. But as the minutes passed, the realization set in that every reservoir and sealed tank on the planet was empty. This wasn't a geographic shift, it was a biological countdown for every living organism. Supermarkets became the first sites of total collapse. People didn't wait for the news to confirm the disaster. They cleared the shelves of every liquid-filled container in complete silence. Traditional currency became useless within the hour. Global financial systems evaporated because in a world without water, a bottle of soda is worth more than a digital bank balance or a deed to a house. This collapse reveals that our economic systems are entirely fictional. They rely on the presence of foundational biological requirements that we usually take for granted. Beyond human thirst, our modern infrastructure has a hidden, massive dependency on water cooling to keep its hardware from melting. Power failure began in hospitals and high-rise apartments, but not because the fuel ran out. Air conditioning and ventilation units simply overheated and triggered automatic shutdowns. These cooling towers show the scale of the water volume required to regulate nuclear temperatures. Without a constant flow of coolant, reactor cores began to redline. Because no manual shutdown protocols exist for a world with zero water, the threat of meltdown became a certainty. Our most advanced power systems are actually fragile engines that depend entirely on a planetary-scale coolant to function. The internet died physically. As the oceans vanished, massive landslides in the newly dry trenches snapped the millions of miles of fiber-optic cables that connect the continents. What remained of the network died in the server rooms. These racks represent the physical hardware of the internet, which requires constant thermal regulation. Without water cooling loops, data centers globally began to burn out. At the same time, fires began to spread through the major cities. Fire departments could only watch from the sidelines. Without a water supply, the tools of modern firefighting are useless. The digital age was built on the back of the physical oceans. Without them, we are left deaf, blind, and burning. Inside the human body, failure is rapid. As hydration drops, blood thickens into a sludge the heart cannot pump. Without sweat, thermal regulation stops. Core temperatures spike past survival limits, leading to systemic organ failure. Before the body dies, the mind begins to fracture. Survivors reported hearing the sound of rushing rivers or smelling salt air in the middle of a desert, as the brain tried to reconstruct the world it needed to survive. In the end, the human mind shatters first, frantically hallucinating an environment that has ceased to exist. The Earth's surface is undergoing a rapid chemical shift. The newly exposed seabeds are oxidizing, changing the planet's color from blue and gray to a dusty rust red. This satellite view shows the thick cloud formations that usually regulate our climate. Without oceanic evaporation to feed them, these systems dissolve entirely, leaving the atmosphere thin and the surface exposed to unfiltered sunlight. The loss of the oceans creates a state of gravitational destabilization. Trillions of tons of mass have been deleted from the surface, creating an immediate imbalance in how weight is distributed. This shift in mass creates microscopic but compounding wobbles in how the planet rotates on its axis, affecting its orientation as it moves through space. Earth is reverting to its original state as a pre-life rock. This proves that the biosphere was never a permanent fixture, but a temporary surface condition. Scientists are left with a final paradox. There is no physical model or known mechanism that can explain how this much mass was removed from the planet instantly. The collapse of every carbon-based ecosystem is now permanent. The foundational element required to restart the cycle of life is simply gone.
If a substance as essential as water can vanish while leaving the laws of physics intact, it suggests that the stability of our world is far more precarious than we assume.